Brian, you can go ahead and get us started.
Good morning.
Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Great. Thank you, Brian.
Good. Just want to start out asking about your pitchers. How's their health? How well are they building up that arm strength? And how's it looking as far as the weekend guys? The guys we expect, or is anybody else maybe stepping up there?
You know, I would start with the fact that we're still building up. From our staff meetings, we'd still like to play a few more innings. So that's been a little bit slow, and I think I have to attribute a little bit of that to our offense. I just think our guys are having good at bats, longer at bats, and you're right, getting these pitchers to ramp up. But it's probably shortened our innings a little bit, maybe an inning or two each game from what I'd like to see. So hopefully, we just finished our second round. So that first round, everybody's arm comes out turning around really well and excited for those first squad games, and you're kind of ready for that first live performance. And then after that first outing, the most recent was the second outing this past weekend, and the arms looked like they were underwater a little bit, just that recovery from being broken down from throwing live that first time. So it was a little slower. But I do expect that was kind of our charge is traditionally after that second outing, we really push, that start to start program that they really need to dig in and work like none other. And you can start setting a course for the season. So I look for our arms to rebound a little bit this third weekend. Cody Greenhill's progressing nicely. Richard Fitz, Mason Barnett. That's a guy we've probably advertised to you guys and to our fans and to our team as a potential closer type. His innings are progressing so well that I think it's up for discussion and won't be decided till after this third round. But, next week's game week, I could almost see us really trying to commit to maybe him getting a starting spot. And you're probably sitting there wondering why. And you start thinking of Jack Owen. That would be the one negative report to bring to you this morning is a dislocated finger that was probably going to knock him out a couple of weeks. Strange occurrence of a ball that got past third base, and Jack runs over in a backup position to pick it up and throw it home as the runner starts to advance from third to home, and his middle finger actually absolutely clipped and hit the padding of the third base dugout or the camera well at that furthest end, and immediately I was kind of standing near him and figured out pretty quickly when he looked at me and showed me his finger with, one going the complete opposite direction of the others that we had an issue. So no broke bones, anything like that. And again, don't want to play doctor, but we think it'll be a couple of weeks for some ligaments to heal. That's probably a pretty painful thing with your throwing arm and how important that first finger, the index and the middle finger are to throwing a baseball. So I don't know if it really forces us to make adjustments, but we're really looking a little bit closer at Mason being in the starting rotation with Fitz and Greenhill potentially for opening weekend. A lot of the relievers are doing good. They're getting multiple outings. Our most improved player by far is one true freshman that stands out to us, and that's Jack Sokol. He is starting to run some real numbers, but numbers doesn't matter this time of year. It can get you drafted. It can get you a scholarship, but what he's doing is putting his head in the mitt, his arms following it, and he's getting ahead and he's staying ahead and he's creating tough at bats. And it looks like a completely different guy that came back from the break. We're excited about that. I would say Cam Hill would be in that category, but we were pretty excited when we finished the fall. Cam started showing flashes of where he's at. So we got two freshmen throwing tremendous. It looks like our starting rotation is starting to shape up a little bit. After we play that first opening weekend, there's two midweek games, a Tuesday, Wednesday. So we really got to come up with 5 starters before we head to Round Rock for that second weekend. So a lot of these guys, our entire pitching staff will be unveiled the first couple of weeks, but that's kind of a report for now.
As a quick follow-up, who would be your closer if Barnett was to be a starter?
Yeah, eventually, I still think it could be Barnett. And as you start walking toward SEC play, The one thing I'm mindful of maybe making that decision and maybe trying to use a different closer early, is I don't want Mason Barnett thinking like, I might be the Sunday starter, but I might throw a couple innings on Friday if we're in a position to win a game. I don't want him to play that in his mind. I want him, if we elect to start him, I want his mind crafted around getting ready for a Sunday start, because I don't want him to have a start and wonder if it could have been better if he would have just focused on that start. So I think for that first weekend, that's how we'll play it. Blake Burkhalter has looked great in short stints. Cam Hill, who I just mentioned, has looked great. Carson Skipper, I trust. When you really start thinking about it, Brooks Fuller is one of those that's been in that starting mix. A Trace Bright, so those might be a couple of midweek starters, but that still leaves a lot of guys for us to look at. Carson Schwilling is a guy that didn't pitch much this fall, trying to get his feet back underneath him. Is another guy that could potentially do that. And I think I'm probably leaving out a couple like Seb Thomas and a couple others that have thrown the ball pretty well.
Caleb?
Because thanks for talking with us. I wanted to ask about Richard Fitz and Ryan Bliss. They continue to get preseason honors and go up on those draft projections. Can you talk about what you've seen from them this offseason?
Those are two guys that are just consistent performers, and there may be a neater way to say that, but they just show up and they've worked hard since they've come to campus. It's in their DNA. It's how they were raised, and for whatever reason, some guys can just, they rush in and drag out every single day. They can't wait to get to the field. They just have that gene where they love baseball. They work, and they're tired when they go home. They drag out of here. The guy that hadn't figured it out yet or hadn't got everything crafted the way he needs to, they kind of drag in and they rush out to go into something else. These guys are invested in their craft and what they're doing, and just that investment of all those consistent days has put them in a great position. I mean, Richard Fitz is a walk-on. I coached his brother, and it's an amazing family, but Richard's always known what's in him, and he's worked really hard to grow about as much as any other player, maybe since Casey Mize, coming to campus, and that growth over 3 years. Richard is on that trajectory. And then Ryan Bliss is also the consistent person. And Ryan Bliss is a coach on the field. He and Brody Moore, those two position players have just done an amazing job with new infield pieces. And, Bliss, he had so much depth. Him just not being an All-American, he's trying to make somebody else an All-American. And that's uncommon, and that's refreshing, and that's pretty amazing. But I do think it's hard, this prediction of we didn't play a conference game last year. So you go back to 2 years, is Ryan Bliss going to be the same player he was 2 years ago and 18 games last year? I think so. I'd be betting on him and Richard Fitz continue to grow and get better because of that consistency I see every day. But, I still don't think the world knows Mason Barnett. I still, the Cam Hill that we're so excited about, that's continued to grow on our coaching staff and on his teammates. I still think there's some players in our program that people don't know yet. And that's probably going to be the case and happen in other programs around. But when you say you got to go out and play a few games to start figuring your team out and what others look like, I mean it more than ever, because in some regards, there's been a long break in between evaluating teams and players. And, we've been in this deal for 11 months, who's invested the most. And sometimes in a practice setting, you can't always tell. But these lights will start turning on, and I'm telling you, you're going to see some players that were All-Americans that are not going to look like it. And you're going to see some players you've never heard of that are going to look like All-Americans. And I think that's going to be because of this unique time that we've just experienced. And it's kind of something kind of intriguing, that's right around the corner to start figuring out.
Jason?
But
talk about the catcher position some. Obviously, replacing Scheffler, you got some bodies there, and that's always an important position for you guys. How is that shaping up?
Yeah, more than one. You know, the Scheffler was the guy that you just, I don't know, he'd kind of earned it. He made our team better. His mind was invested in every pitch, and so I think I've mentioned that I think that's our biggest replacement. Although really good players we lost in some other positions, for sure, like a Bailey Horn that had pitched in some big games. You know, you think SEC tournament and the Georgia Tech start and some things that he had done, but all these guys that had left, the biggest hole is replacing that catching position because it's so important, especially in COVID, right? Because you can move a left fielder to right field, or you can shuffle your infielders around if you get some contact tracing, like all these other sports. I don't know why is going to be different for us. So we're preparing with catching like never before, because you can't just go to a lot of your roster and say, hey, won't you go put that gear on and go back there and you start catching 95 miles per hour? It doesn't really work that way. So I think we're more than one catcher. We're catching Nate LaRue's probably in that one spot right now. He's got to continue to work to get better. We felt great out of the fall. We probably are still working to get into playing shape with him. Ryan Dowell is that second piece right now. Nate's right-handed. Dow's left-handed, so we think those two guys can really help us. Ryan Dow just hit the 1-year mark on his Tommy John surgery, and that's why he redshirted last year. So we're excited about him, and he really hadn't started his college career. These will be his first games. So Nate's got those, those few games behind Scheffler there that he caught, where he's at least been out there before. But I think it's a two-man job, and Ben Shore's really come on, solidified himself defensively from the fall. Peyton Cyprant is from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, another true freshman. And then just from a expectation of potential COVID, like I mentioned, Stephen Williams came here as a catcher, and he's called in both rounds, both weeks of our squad games, and will continue to do so. He's developed so much and gotten comfortable in right field that we've actually invested a few innings in him, and he'll catch again this weekend. So Stephen Williams is even in the mix, a new name to think about from the past that, in this unique year, we're trying to prepare for that position to be less decimated, and we're trying to get more prepared and trying to get 5 guys prepared to catch if need be.
Mark?
Yeah, Coach, are your guys getting much benefit from your new indoor facility?
Yeah, I've come up with my yogi line to keep it simple. I think we're going to hit more because we hit more. We had 2 cages, now we have 4 cages, and the thing's so beautiful, and really we can do any type of configuration, so now we have 4 bays potential maximum for guys to hit in. We can make it 3 cages, 2 cages, 1 cages. You can have, bunting areas. We got the latest technology to video from above and beyond, and all these different angles. We got spin rates off the bat, or how hard they hit it, even projecting how far the ball goes. So the new iSpin machine's been great, because now if we're going to face you on Friday night, then we get all your spin rates from the data, and we can actually put your arsenal, and we can have the ball not only at your velocity, but spinning at the rate that you produce on average, whether it be your fastball, your breaking ball, your slider, changeup. So, you don't see that virtual image of you actually throwing a ball the way the virtual reality does for us, but we can actually see the baseball that you're throwing at us and have some at bats competing against that before we actually face you. That's fascinating for me to think, because I think back to when I was in college and we're hitting in a cage and we're like, hey, we hit that hard, but you don't know how hard, or you don't know how far being in a cage. All this feedback that you're getting now, and then just practicing the speed with which you're going to see a baseball and how it actually spins before you face it is just mind-boggling to me from how I come through. But you know, as a coach, Mark, the last point is you have to understand how much it hurt to see a couple of guys, 4 guys hitting in the cages in the past, and we were getting our work in, and that was, you know, I don't think we were lacking anything. The biggest thing that hurt me as a coach was seeing both cages going in the past last year and seeing 3 more guys walking over to come hit and seeing that those 2 cages were filled and turning around and going home, as opposed to waiting. That's the biggest difference. That's why I say we'll hit more, because we're going to hit more. And, you know, those 3 guys that left, they may come back in an hour, or they may have found something else to do. And that's just how human nature works. So we're excited. I'm thankful to those 64 families that have done this and invested in our program and in our players. And I think it's going to make a huge difference.
Thanks.
Anything else for Coach?
Guys, have a great day. Appreciate you.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, appreciate you guys jumping on. I will